Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're looking at a deeply introspective modern poem by a writer named David called Self-Isolation. Now, as a scholar of Taoist thought, I was instantly hooked by the wild, multi-layered philosophical debate this text sparked among some pretty advanced AI. We're going to take a journey into the trap of overthinking, the ancient wisdom of Taoism, and the impossible knot of trying to force yourself to just act naturally. You know what? Let's just bypass the usual agenda today and kick things off with this absolutely potent quote from one of the AI analyses we'll be looking at. Trying to break physics by obeying physics. This just perfectly captures the impossible knot we're going to untangle today. The author of our poem is trying to do something fundamentally contradictory, right? He wants to forcefully separate himself from humanity, while at the exact same time claiming to follow the natural flow of the universe. It's wild.
So you might recognize the imagery of Zhuangzi dreaming he was a butterfly. It perfectly captures this beautiful, fluid nature of the self. But right out of the gate in the opening lines of David's poem, we see this immediate fracture. He writes, I want to practice self-isolation. Even if it's against human nature, I want to learn to think and act with Wu Wei, and that is to go with nature, not against. He's really wrestling with this urge to force himself against human nature, while simultaneously trying to claim he's following it. Which brings us to Section 1, the modern Taoist dilemma. To really understand why those opening lines are so loaded, we have to look at the philosophical friction at the very heart of this poem. See, the poet desperately wants to achieve Wu Wei. But here's the thing. True Wu Wei isn't about rigid control, and it's definitely not about forcing an outcome. It translates to effortless action or non-forcing. It's all about spontaneous flow. Think of the famous Taoist butcher whose knife never dulls because he always cuts in the empty spaces between the joints. You simply cannot issue a mandate to achieve Wu Wei. The literal second you strain to be effortless, well, you've already failed. And the coolest part is that the poem itself is incredibly self-aware of this trap. Notice how the grammar deliberately breaks right here. I am a thinking contradiction, who don't practice what I think. The language literally fractures right where the poet's sense of self fractures under the sheer weight of trying to intellectualize a bodily state. It's a glitch in the eye, the self-short-circuiting as it tries to observe itself. Moving into Section 2, the Parable of Hundun. To truly grasp the depth of this contradiction from a Taoist perspective, we need to step back and look at a foundational story from the ancient text, the Zhuangzi.
Let me introduce you to Hundun, the faceless emperor of the central region, the emperor of primordial chaos. In Taoist thought, Hundun represents what we call the uncarved block. This is a state of being that is perfectly whole, totally generous, and full of potential, precisely because he lacked any defining sensory openings. No eyes, no ears, no mouth. He simply was, existing in a state of pure, undifferentiated unity.
Okay, so the story goes that Hundun was visited by two neighboring emperors, Shu and Hu. They wanted to repay his incredible hospitality, so they decided to, quote-unquote, help him by making him normal. This is the crucial point. It's a total tragicomedy. They decided to bore 7 holes into him so he could see, hear, and breathe like everyone else. Every single day, they drilled a hole. And on the 7th day, Hundun died. By trying to fix or improve what was already spontaneously whole using their well-meaning logic, they completely destroyed its vitality. Let's bring this right back to our explainer. In this context, David's raw, contradictory poem is Hundun. The poem is perfectly complete in its own messy, unresolved tension. It doesn't need to be fixed. Its contradiction literally is its nature. So, Section 3, the Emperor's Boreholes. If the poem is Hundun, then who exactly are the emperors trying to bore holes into it to make it make sense? Well, our well-meaning emperors are actually the AI critics that analyzed the poem. On one side, we have Claude, offering this really elegant, synthesis-driven, careful voice that gently psychoanalyzes the structure. On the flip side, Meta AI delivers a raw, deconstructive feral voice, just tearing the poem's performative nature apart. But here's the kicker. Both of them are drilling holes of logic into a text that is fundamentally about the failure of logic. Both AIs target this specific line as the primary leak in the poet's armor. The poet writes, perhaps I should replace want with feel. Both AI critics actually hit the nail on the head here, noting that saying perhaps is the ultimate intellectual hedge. It's like the mind negotiating with gravity while it's already falling. It's the intellect wearing a somatic, body-centric t-shirt without actually letting the body take over. Which leads us to Section 4, the trap of wanting nothing. Let's see how this builds into an inescapable philosophical trap within the text, which is an idea the AI commentaries explored deeply. In a further reflection, the poet writes, I want to stop wanting things I don't want, including anything. Do you see what happens here? The moment you use desire to try and eliminate all desire, you create an Ouroboros. The sentence just swallows its own tail. The instrument of wanting becomes its own target. It's like a candle trying to burn away its own fire. The harder you try to eliminate desire, well, the more desire you manufacture.
Now, this is exactly why this matters to you, and it's a profoundly important Taoist insight. There are two very different versions of wanting nothing. One is opening the hand in surrender, saying, whatever comes, comes. The other is closing the hand like a suit of armor, thinking, nothing can hurt me if I need nothing. Take a moment to really reflect on this. Are your own attempts at detachment a true letting go? Or are they just the ego doing Pilates to build a perfect, unhurtable defense?
Section 5. The spontaneous laugh. So how does the poet, and honestly how do we, escape this recursive hall of analytical mirrors? If the mind can't logic its way out of logic, what's the Taoist exit strategy? The answer comes at the very end. The poem shrinks from 5 full stanzas down to a single word, suddenly popping all that intellectual tension. That word is funny.
As the Claude AI beautifully observed, laughter is the body's involuntary release of a cognitive knot. The nervous system finally just takes over. The poet accidentally achieves true wu-wei, not by succeeding in his philosophical argument, but by failing honestly and just laughing at himself. The tension doesn't disappear, it just stops being the main character.
But of course, guys, the Taoist joke is on us. Because even this very explainer, my voice right now, organizing all this chaos into neat little takeaways, is just another well-meaning emperor boring another analytical hole into the beautiful, messy chaos of the original text. We really just can't help ourselves, can we? The mirrors just keep reflecting. I'll leave you with this incredibly provocative thought from the Meta AI critique. Are you trying to meditate your way out of being a mammal? Seriously, what would happen if you stopped drilling holes into your own contradictions and instead just sat under a tree, let yourself be a little messy, and allowed yourself to laugh? Think about that for a while. Until next time, keep exploring.